He mowed the grass, swept the leaves, and whispered hello to headstones no one visited. Until one day a young recruit asked, "How do you remember all of them?" The answer changed everything. He arrived before the sun. Every single day, rain or frost, holidays or weekends. His beat-up pickup truck pulled into the same corner of the small military cemetery, just off a county road most people never noticed. The gate always creaked open for him. No badge, no ID, but he'd been there longer than the rust on the hinges. They never changed the locks. The staff just called him Pop, not out of affection, but habit. He didn't care. He wasn't there to be remembered. He was there to remember. He wore the same uniform every day. Faded green overalls, steel-toed boots, and a desert camo boonie hat with the brim curled down to shade his eyes. His hands were thick, dark with age and oil. His back was bent, but not broken. He moved like someone who had nothing left to prove, because he already had. His first stop, always the same. Grave 17, B. He never started mowing before greeting that one. He'd place a single fingertip on the headstone, close his eyes. Sometimes he whispered something you couldn't hear unless you were standing right next to him. On a Tuesday in early spring, a new kid arrived. Private First Class Drew Mathers. Shaved head, fresh out of boot. Still walked with that unsure mix of pride and fear. He'd been late to formation twice. Now he was here. "Grounds duty," his CO said, "until I say otherwise." Drew thought it was just yard work. He was wrong. The old man didn't greet him, didn't explain anything. Just handed him gloves and pointed toward a stack of leaves at row C. The silence was heavier than orders. Drew hated it, until he heard something. Software faint. A whisper. He turned, saw the old man a dozen graves away. Murmuring names. Drew thought maybe he was praying. But then he heard, "Corporal Allen, Echo Company, 1968. You hated the rain. Always said it messed with your rifle. Simmons, you left your damn radio on that one op. Cost us a good nap, but saved 6 men." The old man was talking to the headstones, not like a crazy person, like someone who knew them. At lunch, Drew finally asked, "Sir, I mean, Pop, how do you remember all of them?" The old man wiped his hands on a rag, sat on the bench near the maintenance shed, took a slow sip from his thermos, then said, "Because they remembered me," when no one else did. And then he stood up and went back to raking. Drew didn't get it, not fully, but something shifted. The next day he showed up early, watched the man kneel at grave 17B again. This time Drew followed, at a distance, watched him touch each headstone like it had breath left in it. Over the next few weeks, Drew learned more without being told anything. The man never bragged, never said where he served. But Drew caught clues. A faint tattoo barely visible under the rolled sleeve. Not flashy, not the kind you get from a shop. Real ink. Earned. He saw how the old man walked, boots planted, eyes always scanning, one hand always free, not for balance, for readiness. One afternoon, a thunderstorm rolled in. Everyone left the cemetery, except him. Drew came back with an umbrella, found the old man kneeling in the mud, not moving, whispering. It was grave 17B again. Drew stepped closer, read the name, Lieutenant Michael R. Halperin, KIA 1971. He asked quietly, "Was he your CO?" The old man didn't answer, but Drew saw it. The blink, the inhale. "Yes," he said finally, "and my best friend." Then he added, "He told me once, if I made it back, to keep them alive. Not in stories, in presence." Drew started memorizing the names, just a few at first, then full rows. Every morning before the old man arrived, he would practice the names under his breath. The other recruits noticed. By week 3, 2 more joined. Then 5. Then the CEO came to check what was going on. He stood back, watched a half-dozen young men in silence, cleaning the stones and whispering names. He didn't stop them, didn't say a word. Just saluted Grave 17B and left. One morning the old man didn't show up. First time in years. Drew waited. Nothing. Afternoon came. Still no sign. At sunset, the maintenance guy found a package on the bench, a small wooden box. Inside, a rusted dog tag, a list of 236 names, and a folded note. Carry what matters. They never saw him again. No obituary, no call, no update. He was just gone, like he'd finished his watch. Drew stayed. He kept the list, typed each name into a database, looked up the stories, the medals, the missions. He started adding small flags to each grave on the day they died. Eventually, the base gave him a plaque. Memory detail, lead custodian, private first class, D. Mathers. He had earned it, but the old man's name never made it onto any wall. Not officially, except one, above grave 17. So now I ask you, have you ever known someone who didn't ask to be remembered, but refused to forget? Someone who carried memory like it was their final mission? Drop their name in the comments. Honor their silence. Share what they never said out loud, because the most powerful stories don't shout. They whisper through men who kneel in the rain and carry names like medals. Subscribe to Old Glory Legends Tales. We tell what others forget. We honor those who stay. Until next time, if you ever see an old man in a graveyard whispering to stones, don't interrupt. Just listen.